Welcome back. Now we will be reviewing Chapter 3 of our text, which will examine how each functional department within an organization manages the challenge of building and maintaining an ethical culture. This slide contains a quote from Norman Augustine. He was the chairman of Lockheed Martin. This is an excerpt from his acceptance speech of a prestigious award from the Ethics Resource Center. This might give you a different way to look at the Enron disaster. He said, "I very much doubt that the Enron executives came to work one morning and said, 'Let's see what sort of illegal scheme we can cook up to rip off the shareholders today.' More likely, they began by setting extremely high goals for their firm, and for a time exceeded them. In so doing, they built a reputation for themselves and a demanding expectation among their investors. Eventually, the latter could no longer be sustained. Confronting the usual judgmental decisions which were presented to executives virtually every day, and not wanting to face reality, they gradually began to lean more and more towards extreme interpretations of established accounting principles. The next thing they knew, they had fallen off the bottom of the ski jump. In our last chapter, we decided that there were two good reasons to study business ethics separate from general ethics. First, because other stakeholders have a vested interest in the ethical performance of a business. And second, because at work, you may find yourself in a situation where your personal values may clash with the values of the business's operating culture. Now, an organizational culture is the sum of all the values, beliefs, and norms that all the employees share. Now, wait a minute. In the last slide, didn't we just say that your personal values could clash with the operating culture? Yes, that's what we said. While in principle you may absolutely agree with the company's operating culture, or else why would you work there, the application of the values, beliefs, and norms to specific dilemmas may be interpreted differently than you personally believe appropriate. We will have more discussion about that later in the course. Back to the slide. We will be discussing the key functional departments that make up the value chain. The value chain is made up of the key functional inputs that an organization provides in the transformation of raw materials into a final product or service. The key functions within an organization or within the value chain are research and development, manufacturing, marketing and advertising, sales, and customer service. This blurry slide is a representative company value chain. This is found on page 44 of your text. Across the top of the chain are the primary functions and cost centers of the company: supply chain management, operation, distribution, sales and marketing, and service. These contribute directly to the profit margin of the company. The support activities which support all of these functions include product R&D, technology and systems development, human resource management, and general administration. From an ethical perspective, employees in each function face ethical challenges and dilemmas. Chapter 3 focuses on R&D, manufacturing, marketing, human resources, and finance. First, R&D. Of course, R&D focuses on the future growth of the company. New products must be better, cheaper, and be brought into market faster than the competitors' products. Therefore, the company's commitment to quality, safety, and reliability is critical to the company's success. Of course, better, cheaper, and faster means that occasionally compromises must be made in functionality or features to manufacturing processes in order to meet a targeted cost. This compromise is often difficult. Of course, a designer of a product may want to put every feature in a new product that he can possibly dream up. Naturally, that makes a product more expensive. So if he takes too many new features out, advertising will have no story to tell and the product may appear cheap. against the competition. Also, if the product doesn't really appear new, the company won't be able to make a profit. Other ethical dilemmas in R&D would include, do we use the best materials available or the second best to save some money? Do we run a full battery of tests? Of course, if we don't run enough tests, do we risk safety issues developing after purchase? Auto companies who rush products to market often see safety recalls, which have huge economic and legal impacts. Okay, now the product is handed off to the manufacturing team, who must actually build the product. The classic question is, do you want it built fast or do you want it built right? Of course, the company wants both, but compromises are often necessary, and manufacturing must make many ethical decisions to deliver a safe, well-built product at the right price. Once a product is manufactured, it must be sold. The marketing process includes advertising, public relations, and sales. If R&D and manufacturing did their jobs well, then the product should be easy to move into the hands of the customer. But as we know, a lot of things can go wrong. There are a lot of opinions about the tactics used in marketing, and several of our assignments will deal with marketing issues. Marketers see themselves as providing products or services to customers who have already expressed a need for and a desire to purchase those products. This view argues that marketers are providing a service through whatever methods necessary. This is really a utilitarianism argument. The ends justify the means. Critics of marketing see it as a more manipulative process, whereby unsuspecting customers are induced to buy products they don't really need and could quite easily live without by slick commercials and advertisements. These critics are really evaluating marketing techniques considering universal ethics. Your text goes into a fairly lengthy discussion of this, including an excerpt from Philip Kotler's article, Is Marketing Ethics an Oxymoron? As you read this, consider some of the recent marketing campaigns that you have seen. Now we'll move into the human resources or HR function. The HR function should ideally be directly involved in the relationship between the company and the employee throughout the employment contract. HR functions include the creation of the job description, recruitment and selection of the right candidate, orientation of the new employee, efficient management of payroll and benefits, documentation of periodic performance reviews, documentation of disciplinary behavior and remedial training, creation of a career development program, and coordination of final paperwork, severance benefits, and exit interviews. Because HR is really responsible for the people side of the business, HR professionals must help ensure that ethics is a top organizational priority. HR should be the ethics champion in the organization. HR must ensure that leadership selection and development processes include an ethics component. Leadership must be committed to ethics and must set the appropriate direction and definitely lead by example. HR is responsible for ensuring that the right programs and policies are in place. In this case, we will talk about the financial penalties that result from violations of the many laws in place to prevent unethical conduct, and you'll see several of those discussions later in the course. HR must stay abreast of ethics issues, and in particular the changing legislations and sentencing guidelines for unethical conduct. HR must make leadership aware that they could go to jail if they do engage in unethical conduct. Finally, Chapter 3 talks a bit about finance. At the most basic level, a financial transaction is the process by which money is handled through an organization. The accounting function keeps track of all the money, and the auditing function certifies that the company's financial statements are accurate. This is most often done by an impartial third party. Now, especially when there is a third-party auditor, there is a dramatically increased potential for ethical dilemmas. The Sarbanes-Oxley Act has attempted to regulate the role of the third-party auditor to a great extent, and we will talk about that in a later chapter. The Generally Accepted Accounting Principles, or GAAP, provide standard operating procedures within the accounting profession. These are in place to help ensure the accuracy of financial statements. A set of accurate financial statements that present an organization as financially stable, operationally efficient, and positioned for strong future growth can do a great deal to enhance the reputation and goodwill of an organization. Finally, the ethical challenges for finance include creative bookkeeping techniques, and there are many that are illegal. This mentions one that is legal, which is to defer receipts from one quarter to the next to manage your tax liability. Many people think that is illegal, but it is not. Also, conflicts of interest become a problem. A conflict of interest is a situation where one relationship or obligation places you in direct conflict with an existing relationship or obligation. The classic example of this occurred during the Enron scandal, when the Arthur Andersen firm was involved not only as an auditor, but also as a business consultant. Arthur Andersen stood to lose millions of dollars if Enron's true financial position was exposed. In the end, everyone lost. Okay, so that's Chapter 3. Many of the ethical issues introduced in the chapter will be discussed in greater detail in later chapters. Remember, if you have any questions, you can email me or post a question on our Questions, Issues, and Concerns discussion forum. I will be back for Chapter 4.